All right, welcome to Math 340, Calculus for Business and Economics. I'm your professor. My name is Nick Dale, and this is just a video going over the syllabus for our course so you kind of understand how the course works, and hopefully it will answer some of your questions if you have them. So up at the top of our syllabus here, we have kind of the basic course information. You're going to find the name of the course, the course code, things like that. My contact information is up here. The best way to contact me for this semester is going to be by email. I do have an office phone, but I'm rarely in my office physically, so you'll almost never reach me if you try my office phone. But email is generally the best way to get a hold of me. Below this, you see my office hours. So my office hours are divided between days that I'm on campus and days that I'm online. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're going to see that I'm on campus from 9:40 to 10:40 a.m. And during those times, you're welcome to come in to get help. My office is Rada Hall North 340. That's easy to remember. It's the same number as the course. The on-campus office hours, you don't need to schedule any appointments with me or anything like that. There's just kind of a drop-in basis. With that said, if you do come to my on-campus office hours, you might experience a little bit of a wait if there's already students who got there before you. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Also available to you are online office hours. I'll talk in a little bit more depth about how those work towards the bottom of this page. But those are listed here as 12 to 1 p.m. So yeah, I'll expand on how the online office hours work in a little bit. Below this, you're going to see our textbook. I'm using an OER textbook, which means it's open source. It's a free textbook, and you can download it here at this URL. It's for this type of a course, I feel like this is a pretty good textbook. It's put out by Texas A&M, and it's got some good problem sets, some good explanations of things. I like this textbook, and I also like the fact that it's free. So I'm hoping that's helpful to you as well. So yeah, here's the URL. This is where you want to go. Get the textbook as soon as possible because all the homework is mostly assigned out of that textbook. And I say mostly because the very first week of the course, we're going to do a unit on some review material that doesn't appear in the textbook. So your first assignment will actually be a worksheet, but then after that, everything will be out of the text, problems straight out of the textbook. Okay, so below this, I give you kind of a course description and some student learning outcomes. This is stuff that you would find if you look the course up in the course catalog. So you'll see kind of the explanation here. I'm not going to read that to you. I'll let you read it if you want to know what to expect. But right here between these two things, I have a quick little blurb about using a graphing or scientific calculator. You're going to need some form of calculator for this class because a lot of the arithmetic that we do is not meant to be done by hand, and it's not worth your time to do it by hand. So you can actually even get away. Well, I think a scientific calculator is probably the bare minimum because you need to be able to use logarithms and things like that, and those appear on scientific calculators. So if you don't have one, you can invest in one. I put a recommendation here. And I really put this recommendation for any class that I teach that allows a graphing calculator, because these are graphing calculators. However, this recommendation might be a little bit outdated nowadays, just because, for one, you don't need a full graphing calculator for this course. These can run, over $100. They can be relatively expensive. And since this is an online course, that tells me that you have access to the internet, and there's actually free graphing utilities that are really, really good. Desmos is one that I recommend as well. So, you have some cost-free options available to you. I'm going to skip down below the student learning outcomes. That's this bulleted list. I'll let you read those yourself as well. Right here, I have a motto that I have for every class that I teach. And this is just always on every syllabus that I write, but it applies everywhere. So it says, remember, math is not a spectator sport, Nobody becomes proficient at math simply by listening to lectures. The key to success is practice, practice, practice. It's very cliche, and that's fine, but it is true. There are some disciplines, I won't name them, but there are some subjects that you can learn where you may not need to practice the material so much. It may be more just committing some things to memory, things like that. But math is not one of those subjects. Math is something that you have to do it to learn it. Listening to a lecture is great. You get some good information that way. But then you need to take that information and go apply it. And that's what I'm looking for on tests and things like that. Can you apply the stuff that we talked about? And if you're doing the homework, if you're doing the practice that I give you, then you should be able to do it. So anyways, that's that. Below that, I have a discussion of lectures. So here we're kind of getting into the actual meat of the course. This is going to be talking about how the course functions, what the expectations are on you as a student, and where to find things. So because this class is online, and specifically it's an asynchronous online class, everything is done through Canvas. You should be familiar with Canvas if you are in this class at all. Pretty much all of the courses at Sac City use Canvas in one capacity or another. But if you have difficulty getting logged into Canvas and stuff, you can always email me at that email address at the top of this page. But I'm assuming that you know how to get into Canvas and how to find our course in Canvas. So with that, in Canvas, every Monday, I'm going to publish a module, and they're going to be titled Week 1, Week 2, Week 3, and things like that. In that module, you're going to find a few things. One, you're going to find any of the lectures that I've recorded for that week. All of my lectures are pre-recorded. I am in the process of recording them right now. And I upload them to YouTube, but then I embed those YouTube videos on our Canvas page. So if you go into that first week module that'll appear on the first week, you'll see exactly which videos I'm wanting you to watch for that week. So you find those, you watch through them at your own pace, because nothing is specifically scheduled for this class outside of exams, which we'll also talk about. And you just, you need to get through them at some point over the course of that week. Preferably towards the beginning of the week, because then once you've watched them, you need time to go and do the homework after that. So where this is going to differ from like an in-person class is that obviously if these are pre-recorded lectures, you're not able to ask questions in the middle of me teaching. In an in-person class, you could raise your hand. I could answer questions that you have on the spot. Obviously, we have to handle that differently in a class like this. So that's this next topic here. Also in Canvas, you're going to find a tab on the left side of your screen that says discussions. And what those are is those are discussion forums or discussion topics that I've created to answer questions that you have. So as you're going through the lectures or as you're going through the homework, if you end up having questions, like if you want me to explain something a little better that maybe was not super clear in the lecture, or maybe you need help on a homework problem, what you do is you find the appropriate discussion topic in there. So you'll see some titled like Chapter 1 lectures, Chapter 2 lectures, or Chapter 1 homework, Chapter 2 homework, and so on. Find whatever chapter we're in, decide if it's a lecture question or a homework question, and then go post your question there. You're going to type it up and you're going to post it. Post that question anytime you want. It doesn't have to be during my office hour. In fact, I encourage you to not wait until my office hour to post those questions. Post them when you're able to. Let me go back up here for a second. So I said I would elaborate on this a little bit. That 12 to 1 p.m. online office hour is specifically a time that I am answering your questions that have been posted in those discussion forums. That's what that's referring to. Okay, so with that, I need to make something clear, because this is always something that causes a few students some issues during the semester when I teach these asynchronous courses. That is not a live office hour. So inevitably I get students, in my asynchronous classes who several weeks into the class will say, hey, I can't find the link for your Zoom office hours. And I have to respond, there is no Zoom office hour. There's no live online office hour. If you want a live office hour, you have to come to my on-campus ones Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But online, when I say office hour, that is time that I have set aside to respond to your questions that you have posted. So please, please, please don't email me asking for a Zoom office hour. I don't do those, okay? Okay, so that kind of covers this discussions paragraph here. I think I go into a little bit of detail partway through this paragraph about how you should do questions in there. I really ask you to be specific. So if you're asking a question about a lecture video, post the exact title of that video, and a lot of them are in multiple parts. So make sure you're telling me it's part 2 or part 1 or whatever. And then also it's really helpful if you tell me the time code. So if you say like at the 3 minutes and 45 seconds mark on this lecture video, you said this and it wasn't clear. Can you clarify? That helps me know exactly what it is you're asking about. Or if you're asking about a homework problem, what I ask you to do is do a little bit more than just saying, can you help me with number 12? I need you to show me what you did, because sometimes these questions have a lot of steps, and it may just be that you're struggling with one of those many steps. It's not really worth either of our time for me to go through all of those steps to answer your question. Instead, it's better for me to focus on the specific thing that's causing you trouble. So as much as possible, please be specific when you ask those questions, because that's how I'm going to best be able to help you. Okay, down here is the paragraph on office hours. I actually already kind of talked about that here, so I don't need to go into more detail, I don't think, but I still read through this. Again, there's no appointments needed for office hours. You can just come in to the on-campus one, or just post your questions whenever you have them for the online ones. All right, let's move on from there. So now we're going to start getting into like things like assignments and exams, stuff that you are doing, stuff that you're turning in. So first of all, this paragraph talks about the need for a scanner. The homework in this class is all handwritten, and you have to be able to scan your homework and upload it through Canvas. Now, there is some exceptions to that rule. So some people prefer to use like a tablet with a stylus or something, and they work their homework out on that. That's also okay to do, provided that you're able to save that homework as a PDF and then upload it to where assignments are uploaded in Canvas. And it's pretty easy to see where to do that in Canvas. So yes, you do have the option to use a tablet if that's what you prefer, but generally homework is going to be handwritten. And in that case, you need the ability to scan your work. So if you have like a hardware scanner, like one of those printer scanner combos, that's one thing you can use. However, if you have a smartphone, which pretty much everybody has a smartphone these days, there's free apps out there that are available that do a fine job scanning your work into a PDF. So one that I recommend is Cam Scanner. If you have used that before, it's pretty user-friendly, pretty straightforward. I personally use the Dropbox app, and that's because the Dropbox app is more than a scanner app. It's a file storage service, and I use that all the time. So it helps because it has a scanner built into the app that works really well. It scans PDFs directly to my Dropbox account, and then it works well for what I need it for. Here's kind of the criteria for homework and things when you're scanning them. Generally speaking, your homework is going to be multiple pages. You're doing one homework assignment each week, and I'll talk about that in the next paragraph. I don't want you to scan a bunch of separate one-page PDFs. I want you to only be submitting one PDF for each homework assignment. And what that means is you need to be able to scan a multi-page PDF. These scanning apps that I mentioned here all do that very easily, but you need to make sure you understand how to do that. So yeah, make sure that you're scanning a single PDF with multiple pages, because your assignments will generally have multiple pages. Also make sure that your scan is legible. So what that means is if you're using one of these scanning apps, make sure you're in a well-lit area, because if you're not, then it becomes really hard to read your scans. They don't scan well unless you have good lighting. Also make sure none of the edges of the page are cropped out so that any information is missing. And also make sure that you scan your pages in the correct order. If you send me a 12-page PDF and all of the pages are jumbled up and out of order, chances are I'm not even going to bother looking at it. I'm going to probably send you a response saying, hey, rescan this, put it in the correct order, and I'll grade it then. So make sure you've checked your scans for those things before you submit them. All right, now let's talk about homework. So in Canvas, if you go into the modules, you'll find one module titled Homework. And that homework assignment, in that module, you're going to find a homework assignment sheet, which has all of the homework for the whole course listed out, with the exception of the first week, which I'll also talk about. The homework assignment sheet is basically just a breakdown of the different sections within the textbook that we cover, and then whatever problems from the textbook I'm assigning for each of those sections. So you need the textbook in order to find those homework problems. And what you do is you find whatever section we're covering for that week. We're usually covering 1 or 2 sections a week. And then you go to the end of that particular section. So 1.1, that's the first section in the textbook. You go to the end of that section, you're going to see a whole problem set back there. Those are the problems you're working through. Make sure you're doing them on, blank paper or lined paper or something like that. Or if you're using a tablet and a stylus, whatever your app for that does. But then work through the problems. You don't need to write out the whole problem. So sometimes you'll get a word problem that's a whole paragraph. I'm not asking you to rewrite the homework problem. You just do the work on it. Homework is worth 30% of your grade, and the way that I grade it is each section is worth 5 points. So some weeks you're going to have homework assignments that are worth more or less than other weeks. And the reason for that is because some weeks you have 2 sections worth of work to do. Other weeks you may only have 1 section worth of work. And I grade 5 points per section. The way that I grade your homework is for completion. I'm not going through and looking to see that you got correct answers. Most of the problems that I assign are odd-numbered problems, and you can check the answers to those in the back of the book. That's intentional because I want you to be able to check your own work. I don't have the time to go through and check for accuracy on all of these homework problems. I used to grade homework that way, and that was about 95% of how I spent my time working, and that's not worth it. So it's for completion, but with this disclaimer, you have to actually show me that you worked on the problems and didn't just go write down the answers from the back of the book. I can see pretty easily if you're doing that. And if I'm looking at your work and I'm saying, okay, you didn't put any actual work into this, you're just writing answers down, I won't give you credit for that because anybody can copy things out of a book. You need to do the work. So just keep that in mind. It's based on completion, but not just written answers. You need to show work. And even if things are incorrect, you'll still get credit for them if you've at least shown me that you've tried. Okay? Let's move down to exams. So this whole big paragraph here is talking about exams. We have 4 of them throughout the course, and that's not counting the final exam. That's just the 4 chapter tests that we do. So I have a safety net that I offer students. I drop your lowest test score. So really, I'm going to be counting your top 3 out of those 4 exams. They're going to be given on specific days. I'll show you the calendar. You can kind of see through this page to the calendar behind there. We'll look at the calendar in a minute, and you'll see there's actual dates that we have scheduled those exams. But on the days that I have scheduled those exams, you can start your exam anytime during that day that you want. So it's not like everybody needs to start it at 8 a.m. or something like that. It'll become available on Canvas in the quizzes tab on the day that you our on the day that we've scheduled to take that exam. And I'll send an email out prior to the first exam, kind of walking through the procedure for taking it. But yeah, that's how that's going to work. Now, as soon as you start an exam, you have 2 hours and 15 minutes to finish it. And the way it's going to work is you're gonna hit, I think it says something like start quiz or take the quiz or something like that. You click a little button, and it's going to take you to a page where you can download a PDF of the exam. You print that out. You work through it by hand. Then you scan it as you would a homework assignment and submit it in the little field that's going to be on your screen at that time. The 2 hours and 15 minutes, there's going to be a timer that appears as soon as you're able to download that PDF, and it's going to start counting down. So that's how I'm enforcing that time limit. It's actually, it'll lock you out of submitting your exam if you don't submit that in that time frame. Okay, so again, with exams, you can start them anytime you want over the course of that one day that they're scheduled for. But once you start them, you have a time limit. Okay, and also, I don't think it says it on here. The exam cannot be submitted any later than 11:59 p.m. because then we're into the next day if that happens. So for that reason, don't wait until like 10:30 at night to start your exam, because then you won't have the full amount of time to complete it. You have to submit it by 11:59. If you run into a problem, and this is something I'll mention in my email that I send out before the first test, if you run into a problem like your internet quits or something in the middle of taking the exam and you can't submit it, even though you're still in the time limit, what I want you to do is just email it to me right away. Sometimes you can do that even if your internet quits, because you scan it to your phone if you're using a scanning app, and then if you have data, you just email it using that. But if you do that, I'll look at the time that you sent me that email, and I'm able to see the time that you started your exam on my end of Canvas, and I'll correlate those two things and say, okay, you did finish it in 2 hours and 15 minutes, you're good. Okay, so that's kind of all I need to talk about for exams for the time being. Those account for 50% of your grade, and again, I dropped the lowest one. So in addition to that, we have a final exam. The date for that is shown on the calendar we're going to look at in a minute. That one is kind of the same procedure. You take it the same way you take a normal exam on that day that's scheduled. You're given more time for it. I'm giving you 3 hours and 15 minutes to complete your final exam, so that, there's more problems on it, so you have more time. It's worth 20% of your grade. This one does not get dropped in any circumstance. I only drop one of your non-final exams. Okay, below this is my grading scale. It's your standard one, 90 to 100% is an A, and so on and so forth. And then here's again that breakdown percentage-wise of what everything is worth in the course. Aside from that, I just have a couple extra things. I talk about cheating here. You can read my cheating policy. Don't do it. I've given zeros on tests before. I've even given zeros on final exams before for students who I have suspected of cheating. It is tempting in an asynchronous class because I'm not there looking over your shoulder, checking to see if you're copying somebody else's work. But I have taught a lot of these asynchronous classes by this point, and I've actually learned how to pick up on some of the patterns that appear when people do that. So you don't want to run that risk, right? You don't want to fail the class because you cheated on something. Just do your own work and you're going to be fine. Finally, any students who have learning or physical disabilities or any special needs should let me know as soon as possible about any accommodations needed. And really, you go through a specific process at Sac City and any of the Los Rios colleges. You have to go through DSPS, which is how you get your accommodations approved. And then they'll send me a letter through email that tells me exactly what accommodations I need to meet. Usually those accommodations are in the form of extended test time. So I can accommodate that if I have that letter. That's that. Let's take a quick look at the calendar for the course. This calendar you'll find in the same module on Canvas as our syllabus. The module is just called Syllabus and Calendar. So if you're trying to remember what dates things are happening, you can always go to this document. It's right there in Canvas. So I don't need to go through all these items here, but basically you have the dates which correspond to each week of the course. the homework assignment that you're turning in, and then if there's any tests. It says quizzes and tests, but we don't do quizzes in this class. It's just tests. So you'll notice on the first week, I do want to point this out, that your homework assignment is different from all the remaining ones. And that's because we are doing that review that I talked about. We're reviewing logarithmic and exponential functions on the first week. And you'll have a worksheet that I give you for the homework. But then after that, you're going to see the sections that we're working through. So the second week of the course, we're going to cover sections 1.1 and 1.2 in your textbook. And you're going to be working through the assigned problems for that during that week. The due date for that is January 29th, which you notice is just the Monday of the following week. So that's how that's going to work. Make note of test dates. Make sure you know those well in advance so you can plan for those. We do have spring break here kind of right in the middle. So, make sure you're aware of that. And then down here, you'll see where the final review is. So the very last week of the course, I don't have any additional lectures. Instead, we're just reviewing for the final. Make sure if you're looking at this document in Canvas that you go to the second page. There is a second page there. And the second page will tell you all of the holidays that we observe this semester. So I'm not going to be posting lectures or anything during these holidays. Some of them, like I will have posted a module already. Like, so for example, for Abraham Lincoln's birthday, that falls on a Friday. I will have posted the module for that already the Monday of that week. And it is your choice if you want to do any work that day. But I'm not accounting for these days in this class. These are days that you have off technically. And then finally, I restate the final exam date right there. Okay, that's everything. So there's the top again. Looking forward to a great spring semester with you guys.